Hi. Today we're in my garage, which also doubles as my workshop, and I'm going to show you how to make a pen. I could start with a piece of material such as this, a large piece of Purple Heart here, which is named after this actual wood because of the color it is, and that's the actual color. It's called Purple Heart. I could use a piece of that size, or I could use a block. I could start with a block of wood this size, but this is ultimately going to be a pepper mill someday, so I'm not going to use that. I also make pens out of acrylics, which is a hard plastic, and you can see some of the variety of colors. When these are turned and polished and made into a pen, they make some very nice colors. I've also made pens out of corian, the countertop material. These are end cuts for pieces of corian. Now, the only problem in using corian is that they only come in basically half-inch thicknesses. So the only pen I can make from a single piece of corian is a slimline pen, which is the type we're going to make today. I have made bigger pens using corian. Basically, I've done that by taking 4 pieces and gluing them together and then turning it down into a one larger pen. But today, for this demonstration, I've selected a piece of tulip wood, and this is it right here. You can see the red stripes running through it, and if you look at the end, you can see some nice grain in there. So hopefully, when this is turned into a pen, you'll be able to see some nice coloring inside. This is a kit that I buy, and this is what I need to make for the guts of the pen. There's 2 tubes because the slimline pen that we're going to be making today consists of 2 parts. It's the upper part and the lower part. There's a twist mechanism. There's the nozzle of the pen. We have a clip that goes between the 2 parts. There's the pen clip, and then obviously we have the ink. I have 3 bushings here. This is determines the size of the pen, and in this particular pen, all 3 of the bushings are the same size. So that makes it a little easier putting it together on this particular type. That's not the case with every pen. And then I have a 7mm drill bit, which is the same size as the tube, and it's going to allow me to drill a hole down the center of the piece of tulip wood to put the tubes inside. Over on this side of the table, this is a special vise that is used just for making pens. The piece of wood goes in here and just tighten it up, and it allows me to drill as well as mark the center on each piece. And this is a pen press here. Basically, it allows me just to put the pieces in between, and we'll be using this a little bit later, and basically press them into place, because most of these are put together by pressure, not by glue, because the pieces obviously have to come apart at some point in time to change the ink. And then also the last thing I have here is it's a pen mandrel, and it has a screw-on cap on the end. The bushings and the tubes go on here, and then the cap goes on and tightens it up, and then we're ready to put it on the lathe and turn the material. So that is everything that we need to make a pen. So let's get started. Okay, I've cleared away the rest of the material here, and now we're down to what we need to make the pen from the tulip wood. While you were gone, I have cut the piece of tulip wood into 2 parts here, and actually to the length of the tubes that are going to go inside of them. I've left, as you can see, I left a little extra on either side. We'll trim that up a little bit later after we drill the hole. But for right now, I'm going to use the press here. I'm going to insert one end, and I guess I should point out that as I cut this, I like to keep the grain continuous, so I try to keep these marked the same way so that I keep that grain running the same way, because it gives a very good effect when the pen is complete. So we're going to put the first piece into the press, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go corner to corner here, and I'm going to mark an X on this. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just looking for the approximate center on this so that I can drill the hole into this. Again, keeping this the same, I'm going to do the same thing with the second piece. Okay, now that I have marked both of these for drilling, we're going to take this over to the drill and we're going to drill a hole down the center of this using the 7mm drill bit that I showed before.
Back on.
Okay. Alright, we're at the drill press. I have the bit in the drill and we're going to drill a hole right down through the middle here. As you can see, that heats up pretty fast, and it just depends on the type of wood and the density of it as to how much heat this throws off. I did a piece of ironwood one time, desert ironwood, and it was so dense that the wood literally imploded as I was drilling through it. Pieces went everywhere, and I decided I would not do that anymore. Okay. There's the first piece. And I'll insert the second piece in the vise. And we'll continue to drill here. Now we drilled a hole in both these pieces, and we're going to go back to the table now, and we're going to insert the tubes inside. Okay, as you saw, I drilled the holes in the block. I still had them in the same order, so the grain is still running the same way. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to insert the tubes into the wood, and I'm going to do that by using this CA super glue, which really kind of makes super glue look slow. This stuff is amazing. You really have to be fast when you're using this, and try not to get it on your fingers either. But it is some tremendous stuff. I usually put, as you can see, I put a paper towel down because that's already set up in there right now. That's how fast the glue works. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. As you notice, I put this one in from this end. I'm going to insert this one from this end so that I'll keep the grain running continuously here as I'm making the pen. A liberal amount of glue on there, and I'm going to put that in there, and I'd like to twist it as I put it in. Make sure it gets into the end so it's flush. As you can see, it is. Just give it a second. It's really set up already. Before I put the glue in the tubes, I did sand them a little bit just to rough them up just a little bit. They hold better inside the tube than that way. Now, as you can see, these two sides are flush, and I have a little bit extra. You can't quite see the end of the tube in there. So I have two options here. I could take them over to my chop saw and I could kind of guesstimate, and I do that with some of the larger pins. But on these smaller pins, I have a tool, it's called a barrel trimmer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back over to the drill. I'm going to put the barrel trimmer inside the drill, and we're going to turn these down until they're the exact same length as a tube. So let's go back over to the drill press. Okay, I've installed the barrel trimmer inside the drill bit, and now we're going to shorten this tube by just basically cutting it off till it gets down to the length of the other tube. Whoops. Tighten that up a little bit. I still have a little ways to go on this yet. Okay, now I will do the same thing on the other piece, and then we'll be ready to move to the lathe. Okay, I've shortened the pieces now to where they're the same length as a tube on both ends. I still have the grain lined up so it's a continuous run. And what I need to do now is I need to put the bushings on there. I'll start with the first bushing, and then the next piece of wood. And sometimes these have to actually be screwed on to get them through the tubes. One of the hazards of live television. There we go. Coming through there. Then we'll put the second bushing on. And the second piece. Next bushing. And then we're going to lock it in place here with the nut. And again, turn this around, you can see that the grain is still there. Now, these aren't exactly lined up, as you can see, and the reason that is because I wasn't dead center when I drilled through there, and I don't have to be dead center on either one of them because all I have to do is make sure I'm within the range of the bushing, because these will be turned down from this size down to the size of the bushing. So let's move over to the lathe, and we're going to start making this look like a pen. Okay, I brought the mandrel over to the wood lathe here, and I've inserted it in the drive, and now I'm going to bring the tailstock up to hold it in place. I'm going to lock it, and then I'm going to bring it up just a wee bit tighter here to make sure that I have good tension there, and then lock it in place. You always want to make sure before you turn it on that you want to be as close as you can with your tool rest. But you obviously don't want to be touching the piece, so you just kind of eyeball it and move it in until you're close. Closer you are, the more control you have over it. So we're pretty close right there. And then also before you start, you always want to turn it on and and test it first. Now I've set this to about 2,630 RPMs. It's adjustable. I can go down as low as 500 RPMs on the lathe. Slower speed is generally for bigger items, and when you do smaller items like this, you usually use a higher speed because you're turning it faster. Okay? So I'm going to turn this on, and as I can see, it's clearing it just fine. The tension is fine. I just tell that from having done it before. And now we're ready to start turning. This is a bowl gouge here, and this is what I'm going to use to turn this wood down to the size of the bushings. So you always come into it very slowly. Rest your finger on there. You want to bring your tool in slowly until you make contact with the wood, and then you want to draw it across. Notice I'm drawing it across. I'm not swinging it across. If I swing it across, I will not have an even surface. I'll have a U-shaped piece. Just for right now, I'm going to concentrate on this piece here to show you how it gets smaller as I go and gets round. It will look rounder much sooner than it actually is, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit.